Welcome to Reno Radio. I'm your host, Naomi Findlay, Australia's renovation royalty. My podcast is all about real advice for renovating, designing beautiful spaces, tradie advice, and my weathered to wonderful passion, where we interview amazing rural property owners who are turning their spaces from weathered to wonderful with great design and great renos. Creating beautiful spaces doesn't have to be hard. In fact, it can be one of the most rewarding things you ever do. So, join me and my impressive list of guests each week for plenty of feel-good, inspiring, and real advice. This is Reno Radio. Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Reno Radio, and we have a fellow that is close to my heart on Reno Radio today. Many of you would have seen him on Renovie and with the Carrington House renovation, and it is Josh from Ferris Building. Welcome, Josh.
Good morning everyone. Thank you, Naomi. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Oh my gosh, he's lying through his teeth. I have dragged him tooth and nail to get him to do a podcast. How many times have we had a diary entry in our calendars to do a podcast, Ferris?
Probably about a dozen.
Right, cool. So he's lying. He's not happy to be here. Well, he is kinda.
Happy to be here, but yes, I have postponed this several times, Phil.
Yeah, he has. All right, so for those that haven't been able to catch Ferris and I doing our thing at Carrington House and doing the renovation, I would like, Josh, for you to tell people a little bit about yourself. Tell us 3 things that maybe people that haven't seen us in Carrington House wouldn't know about you.
Right, well, I'm a father of 4 and...
Madness.
Yes, that is quite madness. Second generation builder, so my father was a builder, never wanted to be a builder. Always wanted to be a professional surfer. Even said to my dad, no, I'm never going to be a builder. And here I sit being interviewed by you as a builder.
How many years from saying that to your dad to becoming a builder?
Oh, look, I think it was late 20s when I actually got my builder's license, or mid-20s. But it was from about 15 years of age till about 24 that I said to the old man, no, building's not for me.
Seriously?
Seriously.
And what did he say to you when you said that?
We'll see.
That's a Ferris return.
So, unfortunately, when I did become a builder, my dad had just decided to retire. So, technically never got to work with him in a capacity as a builder with him working as part of our organisation. Always worked as an apprentice for him, and then on and off between surfing, I laboured through, travelling the world. So, yeah.
Interesting question that's popped up. Not what we're about to talk about at all today, but what do you reckon the words your dad would use to describe you as a labourer? I'm intrigued.
As a labourer?
As a labourer, Ferris. Because I was about to say I've never seen you labour. That would be a lie. I've seen you work hard, but...
I'd probably say something like, look, when he was younger, he was a good labourer. Now, his hands probably don't even get dirty.
I like Ross more and more.
And as people know, there's always those smart comments when I chuck a tool belt on. Someone always seems to be around to take a photo of it and then post it on social media that I've got a tool belt on. Now, most people will think that only happens every year.
Yeah.
It does happen a little bit more than that, Finlay.
A little bit more.
Maybe. A little bit more.
Well, today we are here to talk about, given the season that it is, and we're in spring. We're in spring. Yes. We're in spring, and we're in the mad lead up where everyone focuses on their houses to get them ready for Christmas. Like the holy grail of everyone being over or having that perfect family day where no children have tantrums and every child is happy with every gift Santa ever gives them. And someone does the dishes for us and we don't have a hangover on Boxing Day. So everyone's leading up to that, wanting to prepare their homes for that amazing day, right?
Yeah, everybody wants to sit on a deck.
Exactly. It's so true.
Yep.
Everyone wants to sit in a beautiful outdoor space. And so there's probably a pile of people looking around at their outdoor spaces now, which is what I want to talk to you about today. Going, how do I make it bigger? How do I make it better? I don't have a deck. Can I have one? So I want you, from your perspective, because I immediately go, oh my gosh, what do you want to do on it? How big could we make it? Wonder what lights we could put in, what furniture we could put on it. Don't say the P word. So you will think about things from a structural perspective. So I want you, if you were visiting your best mate's house and he went, hey, Ferris, I'm thinking about building a deck for Christmas. What would be the first things that you would think about?
So the first couple of things I think about when you say that, and this is from a professional point of view, is how long do you want this deck to last? Now, the reason I say that is, do we want to put it down with hardwood bearers, hardwood joists, or do we just do it out of treated pine, have treated pine decking? One is substantially less cost than the other, so your treated pine decking is less.
Let's talk about what this word substantial means. So do you mean like half?
Half.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Half. Now,
And longevity, half or?
Yeah,
Okay.
probably a little less than half, unless you look after it. But you will still get a lot of enjoyment out of sitting on a treated pine deck.
Yeah.
It's about, what you do on there and have on there. So you can have a bunch of mates on there, and whether you're on a treated pine deck or a hardwood deck, it wouldn't really matter.
No, the bottle tops do not care when they hit it, do they?
No, they don't. So the hardwood deck would then come into play when you want to add to the value of your home a lot more, and have longevity of the decking.
Okay.
So that means basically if you put down a hardwood deck, it's more carpentry work to have a hardwood deck. You have to drill a lot of it, pre-drill for the connections. Things do twist and warp in the hardwood, and they do cup, so they need to be fixed right. Whereas a treated pine deck, you can actually just shoot down with nails and get it done in half the time. So after thinking about how long you want it to last, it's whether you have a treated pine deck or you have something like a hardwood deck.
So when you talk about hardwood deck, when you talk about hardwood deck, do you mean hardwood subframe as well as hardwood boards, or would you often use a treated pine subframe, treated pine?
Yeah, you can do that as well. You can use a treated pine subframe. You've got to think about the water getting through there and sitting on top of the joist, and that's when the fixings that you actually screw into the treated pine, if they do get wet, then they'll let go, and your boards will start to rot, pop, and the joist will start to rot. They have what they call like a deck protector, which is like a rubber tube that goes over the top of the joist. Yeah. So if you were doing a deck, like gaffer tape, yeah.
It is like gaffer tape though.
It's
Some
like
of them
a
are
light tube.
sticky, but some of them are sticky too.
That's true. So if you were doing a deck, I'd consider your budget.
Would you prefer, if you did a hardwood top, to do a hardwood subframe?
That would be the best way, yes.
Okay. All right, keep going. So you think about budget.
So you think about budget, and then you think about how soon do you want it, and how much do you want to look after it. Decks do require a lot of maintenance.
They do. Do you believe way too much maintenance? Do you believe that a hardwood deck is less maintenance than a treated pine? From your experience,
Yes.
Ferris.
Yes.
Okay. Half?
So treated pine is quite good for resistance of termites, but the actual timber, like the pine timber, just doesn't have the density the same as hardwood. So the water is going to eventually get in there. The treated part, what they call, which was the old copper chrome arsenic in the treated part, which they don't use now, they now use something else, which I can't remember, right? Is an arsenic, but it's actually just to stop termites. So it's not actually to stop water penetrating the timber or makes it last any longer. So when people talk about treated, it's only treated against termites, not against weather.
So it doesn't make it Superman?
No, definitely not.
Okay.
Whereas hardwoods stand the test of time in Australia. I mean, we've got hardwood trees, and it's quite hard. We've got one of the hardest species of timber in the world. Yes, we do. I knew you were going to ask me that, and I don't know.
No, it'll come to him.
No. It's I think it's something like grey ironbark or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, it's an ironbark.
So, you know what's really interesting? I've been around timber for a while, but I've never considered that hardwood would impact on its water permeability due to its density. I'd actually never thought of that.
100% it would, yeah.
I've always thought about hardwood in regard to marking, rotting, termites, but never in regard to its ability to absorb due to its density compared to softwood.
Yep.
There you go.
And see, the other thing that comes with hardwood is basically the sap that stays in the hardwood over time. That's actually water resistant as well.
And that is, so I was just actually, not that I wasn't focusing on you, Ferris, but I was glancing across to the studio wall where there's a petrified wood plate. And I was having a smile at how long timber can actually last. Like it's a fossil.
It lasts a very long time. Probably outlasts you and I.
Oh, well, that won't be hard. Right. Okay. So the first thing is you would say to your mate, how much do you want to spend? How long do you want it last? And how much do you want to upkeep it? Is the upkeep... So at the moment, we're sitting on a 50-50 rule. We had it would cost you 50%, like it would cost you double to do hardwood. It will last twice as long. Is the maintenance a 50-50 rule from your perspective as well?
No.
Okay.
So if you
I was going for a trifecta.
if you put a hardwood deck down and you didn't coat it at all and just left it to grey off,
which is beautiful, by the way.
yes, and you did the joist protector like we spoke about,
Yeah.
you could leave that just turn grey and never have to really do too much to it. It may splinter over time, the decking, so you might have to just be careful of that and sand it off that. But you'd almost do nothing to that for a good 10 years, 20 years. If you're happy to let it go grey or silver over time.
Whereas there's no way a treated pine deck would last.
No way. Well, it's pine for starters. It's not designed to be outside.
Okay. And my heart just fell flat.
But really good to have a party on.
It is. And you know what? Nowadays, there are so many cool stains, painted finishes, oils. Like, you don't have to have, if you do choose to do a treated pine deck, and I've done so many treated pine decks in my day because of budget and the length of time that I needed it to stay amazing. And they used to just be really yucky stains. There'd be the red or there'd be the chocolate brown. Now there's beach blues, there's elm greens, there's you've just glazed over when I was talking about colour. What I'm saying is it doesn't have to look like a low-end deck, and you can have just as much fun on a budget deck as you can a hardwood deck.
So one of the things that come to mind with painting a pine deck or a treated pine deck is that you want to be able to coat the top of it as well as the bottom of it. So the problem with decking is most people put the decking down and they say, yes, the maintenance of the decking needs to be looked after every 6 months, and they put a coat on the top part of the deck, which is really
and not even the sides.
1/4 of the timber that's accessible.
Yeah, it's true. It's really, really true.
It's like, okay, it might make it look pretty. It doesn't do much to keep it going. So that's why the treated pine decks will always, have a use by date.
Okay. Insightful. Thanks, Ferris.
You're welcome.
Right, what's the next thing? So if they've made decisions, they've decided how much they want to spend, they've decided how long they want it to last, and they've decided how much maintenance they want to give to it. What's the next thing? If someone's going, a lot of people think decks have to be really high off the ground. Other people think that their deck would be too high off the ground. Is there a limit of how close to the ground? And is there a limit of how high off the ground?
So
within reason. We're not talking architectural.
Look, not really. You have to have a handrail when it's above a metre around the side. And that's probably one of the things to consider. If you are building a deck, what kind of handrail do you want? If you're building, a smaller deck, I think it's under about 15 square metres, but check with your local council conditions. You don't have to have a complying development or a DA.
Yeah, I think in our local council, it's 25 squares and below a metre, but it does vary every council.
Every council. And then if you've got small children, what kind of handrail do you want to have? Because some will just put 2 rails around it.
Yes.
That the kids can climb over.
Yeah.
So you come back to make it usable for yourself and your family.
Another thing that we should mention is, and I don't know the exact height, but you will, I'm sure, that over a specific height off the ground, it actually needs next level handrails too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yes. So after around about 3 metres off the ground, you need like a constraint that if you had glass there and it broke, there's another second layer of a steel top rail, so you don't fall back on it.
Okay.
So yeah, there are some conditions around all of that to be complied with.
What about how close to the ground you can go? Because a lot of the time, I don't know about you, but the amount of 60s and 70s houses that have, all like, and it's all doable, but the amount of times I have paved over 10 different types of concrete and 10 different types of paving because, obviously Granddad got out there one summer and did a metre by a metre, and then in the winter he did another metre by a metre in a different finish and a different concrete, and they all had different road map cracks through them that had their own weed farm. And I'm like, you know what, to dig it up, hardcore, to dump it, expensive, I'm just going to deck over the lot. So are you like rolling in your grave going, oh my God?
This actually brings up an interesting topic. So if you do use treated pine, they do make a H4 pine, which is designed to go into the ground. So similar to the sleepers that people use for the gardens. For retaining beds. So they're technically allowed to be buried.
In ground, not even on stirrup.
In ground. So there's a grey area here with the conditions or the Australian standards that builders have to follow.
I nearly glazed over. No, I didn't. Sorry, keep going.
Whilst these treated pine products can be buried in the ground, so to answer your question, we could go almost 100 mil above the ground. Now, the building code says we need crawling space underneath the deck and ventilation.
Right.
Which then you wouldn't be able to bury a hardwood deck technically by the building code. Whew. Now, did I just confuse everyone there?
Oh, no, but you're basically just showing, which is something that I talk about in renovation all the time, that there's massive grey areas, hey?
Oh, massive grey areas.
Huge grey areas, and it's all, and you might speak to, and this is one of the things I talk to my students about, that you'll speak to one trade and they'll literally go, can't happen, won't do it, never achievable. And then you'll speak to another trade and literally they'll be sitting on the other side of the grey area. Neither are wrong, like neither of them are wrong. They're just interpreting the grey really differently, and they'll be like, totally achievable. Of course we can do it, and this is how. And it doesn't mean one trade is wrong or right. It just means they really see that grey area and they're happy to swim in the grey area really differently.
That's a good way of looking at it. And that is the treated pine. You could literally put it 50 mil above the ground. You'd also do that. There's nothing to stop you doing that with your hardwood deck. Now, that would then raise issues for termite protection.
Yes.
Termites, if it is connected to your house, termites crawling up through that timber into your house. So there's a lot of other things to consider without going into a lot of boring technical detail. Do ask a couple of people what the best way is. If you have stairs going down into the ground, do you want that bottom stair sitting just 100 mil above the grass, or do you want a riser? There's lots of things that people will tell you that are different in their eyes.
How do you deal with that as builder?
Look, my job as the builder is to listen a lot. How's that sound, Finlay?
We'll take that one up later.
No, look, I think, how do you deal with that? You have to understand what the client is wanting to achieve. So the first thing I'd sort of try and get an understanding of is how many people are in this family, how many people are going to use this deck, and what are they using this deck for? So if it's for an entertaining space and they've got a family of 4, they're obviously going to have
at least 8 to 12 people in there.
Yes, yeah, or a family of 6, like you and I do. All it takes is 12 people.
Well, if our 2 families got together, we're like, and add in a couple of friends, we're up to like easy 18 people.
That's right. So then you've got to understand that, all right, 18 people on this deck, structurally it's got to be strong. Yep. Not that it wouldn't be anyway. And then what about the areas that it would create on there? And then is it to be usable by the little kids? So how's your stairs go down? Do you just want a set of stairs that are 1,200 wide, or do you want a set of stairs that cover the whole backyard that are 6 metres wide that everyone can go down and sit on?
Yeah. Do you have a young baby that you need to be able to let them tumble down? It happens. I remember my source. I know. Bailey's 17 now, so I can say he turned out okay. I'm sure he'll pass his HSC. I remember in one of our first properties we had like big platform steps, and they were only really low in rise, but they were deep. And so as he, because poor BJ, he was really chubby. And so if he shifted his body weight too far, his momentum would just take him even if he didn't want to, because and so he'd overbalance and then just keep rolling down the stairs.
I'll bring that one up with him next time I see him.
Next time you see him, you'll love it. All right, so I think the big thing here, if anyone is looking at wanting to do a deck, thinking about doing a deck, what would be the first thing you would say to them, as into action now?
All right, so if you were looking to build a deck, one of the easiest things to do with your builder or the person building it is to try and get across what the perception is you have of a deck. And how you do that is grab some pictures, have a look in some magazines.
Get onto Pinterest. Don't get onto Insta. Get onto Pinterest.
All right. However it comes, but just have some pictures that you can translate. This is what I have in my head that I want this deck to look like. That way your builder can understand, okay, well, look, that's not really achievable with treated pine or not achievable with hardwood. Have you considered this, this and this?
Yeah.
Because once your builder comes in and you say, look, I just want a deck about this wide, now most builders have done over 100 decks at least.
Yeah.
So they've got a vast idea in their head of what it is that you want. So the number one thing I'd say, if anybody wants to build a deck, grab some pictures, have a scrapbook, an Insta book, not an Insta one, apparently. Pinterest.
People will just get paralysis on Insta because it's all... That's another story.
All right, I'll leave that one. All I want is some pictures of what it is that you'd like to build. And go from there, because it's a really good starting point when you ask a builder to come over. So, look, I'd like to build this deck.
Yes.
Here are some of the ideas or the thoughts that I have that I'd like this to look like.
Yeah.
Look at that. So that starts the conversation. Otherwise, you're going to ask the builder, look, what can I do here? And he's going to go, okay, well, I can get you a 6 metre by 6 metre deck.
Yeah. And this is probably a great topic for another podcast. It's around communication, around the importance of communication and the importance of planning and the importance of research when it comes to anything in your home. But we might leave that one for another day. Yeah. The next thing, though, I would love you to leave people is we've been talking heaps about working with your builder. What if, well, I can build a deck, but pretend I can't build a deck, pretend I've never built a deck, and I wake up tomorrow and I go, I want to build a deck. I want to build a deck. I don't want to employ a builder. I want to build a deck. What are your first thoughts? Not, oh, that's all bad. But what should someone do? What should someone do if they truly want to have a crack at it, Ferris? Let's say it's a foot off the ground and it's 3 by 3 meters and they just want to put their potting table on it. Okay?
Lots of things come to mind with that one. But if they truly wanted to build the deck...
They just want to build a deck.
I would do a little bit of research on how to build the deck. You probably Google it, go online. Have a look.
You should make a video on that, Ferris.
Have a look at YouTube. Do have a look at some sites that talk about Australian standards and what it is that you should do.
We can link the Australian standards in the show notes in case anyone doesn't know about the Australian standards website.
That'll bore you to death, most of them. But, yes. And the species of timber. So just do a little bit of research on using your treated pine and also your fixings. So your fixings is what holds you from your post in the ground to your decking joists to your decking that goes on top, down. So you want to be able to do a little bit of research. Do I use stainless steel fixings if you live near the ocean? So if old Betsy that wants to put a potting table on her
3 by 3 metre deck,
and she lives over the road from Newcastle Beach, she's going to need to use stainless steel fixings so they don't rust away. Now, there's two problems with if she doesn't use the stainless steel. One, the rust will leach out into the timber and eventually just rust away.
Yep. So, do you know what comes to my head as you were saying all of this? Go to an old-fashioned hardware store or timber yard, like Saddow's, and talk to someone who is over 45.
Yes.
That's what popped into my head. Going to an old-fashioned timber yard and saying to a man or a woman there who loves timber and loves hardware, going, I want to have a go at making a deck. Can you help me?
That's right. Lots of knowledge.
So much knowledge.
Lots of questions. Ask lots of different people. Do your research online. I mean, it's incredible what's online now.
And do you know another thing? I'm a massive fan of spending money for knowledge. I will pay for knowledge at the drop of a hat more than I will pay for most things. I remember when we first started working together again, I was like, I need you for an hour and I'll pay for your hour. Do you remember?
I think you still owe me for that hour, don't you?
Oh, I think I bought you lunch.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so contact your local builder. Contact some builders and go, hey, I want to build a deck. I want to do it myself and I want your help. And I'm happy to pay for your time for you to upskill me. A lot of builders will probably go, no. And there'll be one or two that will have some foresight and go, I reckon after she's built her deck, she's going to want to do an extension. Of course, I'm happy to be paid and share the knowledge.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
Anything you want to leave them with about their 3x3 metre deck with a potting table on it?
Pictures to translate to your builders, or even if you go into the hardware store. If you took a picture with you, and sometimes it's not good enough being on Pinterest or Instagram, a piece of paper out of a magazine, and if you walked into a hardware store and said, I would like to build this, the perception in the over 45 little old man there would be quite clear about what you want to build.
Can I add to that? They should also take a picture of where they want to build it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah,
so the number one thing out of this whole podcast is pictures. Pictures of where you want it and what you want to do. Then go and ask people.
All right, guys. I think we have talked a pile about decks. If you guys are looking to build your own deck, if you have questions about this, you can 100% jump onto Instagram and DM me. Or you can jump onto Ferris's Instagram, Ferris Building, jump on and follow him, DM him. Send him a photo of where you want to build your deck.
Happy to help anyone.
I like it. So they can find you at, what's your Insta handle, Ferris?
Ferris Building.
So at Ferris Building. Awesome. And everyone knows mine. If not, I'll put mine and Ferris's in the show notes below. So thank you for joining us, Josh.
You're welcome.
Will you come back?
I'll give it some consideration.
Oh, my lordy. That's a yes, everybody. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed and happy deck building. Thanks for joining me today, guys, on Reno Radio. It has been a blast. I would love it if you subscribed so you never missed a beat of this podcast. And naturally, let me know what you think. I love to hear everyone's feedback and reviews. If you'd like to know more about all the services and content that we produce at naomifindlay.com, then head on over to naomifindlay.com. You can also keep an eye on what I'm up to on my Instagram. You can find me there at Naomi Findlay Official. Until next time, team, enjoy.